Hey guys, Johnny Nerd out here. Today we got a spring tune-up video for you. Your bike's been sitting in the garage all winter. I'm going to go over front to back on how to keep this thing tuned up so that it'll keep you safe. It'll make the life of your bike be a lot longer than it would be normally. And I also want to go over some upgrades and some things that I think are going to help you this next riding season. Ultimately, it's to keep your downtime to an absolute minimum over the summer when the peak riding time is at its best. If you're new to this channel, I'm Johnny Nerd Out. I'm a custom e-bike mechanic, builder, vendor. Go to johnnynerdOut.com. I am the largest vendor of online components. I have the largest selection of all the different types of motor stuff, battery options, all that type of stuff. Go to johnnynerdOut.com. We'll get you taken care of. And first of all, you don't need a fancy bike stand like I do. It does help. And if you do have a bike stand, I recommend using a t-shirt or a rag to go around your frame so that you're not clamping down on your paint. And I do recommend using an old mountain bike racing t-shirt that you got from mountain bike racing. It adds to the element of doing a bike tune-up. If you don't have one though, any towel or shop rag will work almost as good. With that being said, if you have a kickstand, you could just prop your bike up, lean it against a tree if you have to, whatever. But you're gonna wanna just check your tires pretty much 360. Go around, slowly rotate it. Make sure, do you see any splits, any seams? Is it bald? Look for any damage. If it's good, great. Next, you're gonna wanna go to the sidewall. You're gonna wanna look for the PSI rating. Fill up your tire to that PSI rating. Get an air pump. Go find a friend that has one. If you're not sure where it should go, it's going to give you a range. It's going to have a minimum to maximum. Let's just say 35 to 55. I would recommend going closer to that higher range of 55, but different riding styles, different bikes call for different PSI ratings. Next, you're going to want to look at the brakes. Do your brakes bottom out like this? When you squeeze the brakes, they should not go to your lever. They should bottom out half distance. So right here is where I shouldn't be able to squeeze much harder, but you can see I can go much further. So I'm going to go into how to adjust that and do the same thing on the other side. Make sure that this one's good. This one's stopping halfway. This is where you want it to be. Now this only works for cable brakes, which whether you have rim or disc brakes that are cable actuated. Hydraulic brakes are a different beast. There's not a whole lot of adjusting you could do. It might be best to take it to a bike shop if you're not 100% sure on it. But hydraulic brakes generally don't need adjusting. If you do need adjusting, it's usually something to do with the reservoir adding fluid, bleeding them, things like that. You're going to loosen the bolt on your caliper here. You're going to see it because there's a cable coming through it, and you're going to want to just loosen it and then just put a little bit of pressure on it. You're going to pull it through just to make it a little bit tighter, and then tighten that bolt back down, and then you just check it again. You want to do that front and rear, same procedure, and keep doing it until that thing stops halfway through. That's when you know it's good. Okay, if you have a Bafang mid-drive system like this and you have a tail light and headlight setup, let's test it out now. Let's make sure that it's working. So we're going to press and hold the plus button for a couple of seconds. All right, headlight's working great. Tail light's not working. So we're going to have to replace that or figure out in the wiring what's going on. Now might be a good time to upgrade your light kit. Might be a good time to upgrade to like a deluxe light kit. And if you want to support the shop, I carry all the tools and all the stuff that I'm going to be talking about in this video. I carry it at johnnynerdOut.com. If you want to support the shop, thank you very much. Now that we got like the basic safety, the tires and the brakes inspected, let's just look for everything else bike related. I'm going to look at the frame. Are there any cracks anywhere? And for this, you want to wash the bike before you do this so that you could check. If this is all full of road grime from last fall, you won't be able to see cracks or anything else that's going on in your frame. You want to make sure your battery is off of the bike. Turn the battery off and then take it off of the bike. Then you could spray it down, dry off those terminals as fast as you can. Anything to do with here and any type of power connectors, dry those off as soon as you can. What I recommend for cleaning your bike is using something like a muck off, or if you don't have muck off, you could use something like a simple green solution. Just dilute it pretty good, spray it down, and then take a rag, a microfiber cloth would be best, even a paper towel, and just wipe it down. Okay, and then after you check for cracks, you're going to want to check for everything else. Tightness of everything, looseness of everything. Are your pedals tight? Drive side, it's righty-tighty. Non-drive side, it's lefty-tighty. Turn the cranks counterclockwise to tighten it. I've seen a lot of people screw it in wrong and strip out their crank arms. So you want to make sure your pedals are nice and tight. Next, you want to make sure your crank bolts are nice and tight, and you want to get something like a 8mm hex tool, something with a lot of leverage. And you want to just tighten this thing down. And what I like to do is I get this, something like this, and then I use the crank arm itself for leverage. And then you could kind of tighten it down. You can see this one was a little loose. Tighten it down a little bit more. Ideally, you'd want to do any type of wrenching with the bike on the ground because this could cause this to fall down. Do this on the other side as well. Then you want to check and see, hey, is my motor still tight on the frame? These things can come loose over time. Good way to test it, again, with the bike on the ground. Can I put pressure on this? Look at this. I could loosen this with my hand. This is too loose. So I'm going to take off the crank arms on the other side. I'm just going to re-snug down that lock ring on there. You could use Loctite if you'd like, and then tighten it down. In my opinion, it doesn't do too much because if it's going to come loose after torquing that thing down like crazy, Loctite probably isn't going to do too much, but it is a little extra if you want to. And then next, what I would do is check your spokes. And really, so I have you could get a spoke checker, spoke tensioner, and you could check this stuff. But if you don't have one, you could kind of just go through and do a rough squeeze. Make sure they're all kind of tight. And you'll see if one's like really loose, you know you got a problem. But you're just going to go through and then go on the other side. Do the same thing. Just kind of squeeze them. Make sure there's good tension on it. See if there's any that are really tight or if there's any that just don't seem right. They should all be pretty universal. And if not, you can true your own wheels. If you have a wheel stand, truing stand, most likely you may want to take it into a bike shop to have them, true it. You don't want your wheel to be going like this. Okay, next you want to lube anything that's moving, essentially. Anytime where there's a bearing in it or where you have metal that's moving, you want to lube it. You want to make sure that there's grease in there, essentially, that it's not going to seize up and get rusted. I like Tri-Flow. I pretty much use Tri-Flow on everything that moves. This one is it's made for bicycles. And you could put this pretty much anywhere where anything is moving. You take the little nozzle, get it as close as you can in there. I like to just squeeze it, get some in there, and then work it in a little bit. Your hinges on your derailleur, and then work it through. Go back and forth. This little idler wheel. Get in there. Go crazy. You could use this on your chain too. You can just run like this and then drip it as it goes. If you have anything excess, just dry it off. Next, we're going to be looking at the chain. The chain is the heart and soul of the bike. I mean, it's what transfers power from your chain ring where you're pedaling to the wheel. Now, if you have a mid-drive, all you're doing is just adding to that simplicity of just transferring this to that. But you really want to make sure that your chain is in good health. You could buy a chain checker. We carry those at johnnynerd.com. Or you could just do a visual inspection of it. Do you see any rust on it? Is it getting rusty? Is it starting to get worn? How many 100,000 miles do you have on it? These are like $10 to $20 depending on what chain you need. It might be good to just replace it every season. But if you're like me and you like to just ride it till it dies and then replace it, carry a couple master links in your toolkit so that you can make repairs on the side of the road if you need to. You're not DOA. Now would be a good time to also, going back to brakes, how to check if you have squeaky brakes. You may have noticed on this bike, my wife had squeaky brakes. It means you've got road debris and grime on either your rotors or on your brake pads. So you may want to just replace your pads. You could also clean them. You could take them out, hit them with some rubbing alcohol, and wipe them down with a paper towel. Same thing with your rotors. Spray them with rubbing alcohol and just wipe them down with a paper towel until the paper towel is clean. And if you have rim brakes, you're going to want to do the same thing. Instead of your rotor, do the same thing but with your rims. Okay, got the bike down for this one, for these sections here. First of all, you might want to check for your seat height. You want to make sure that it hasn't been slowly going down all last season and then you realize. So you want to make sure, get on it. What you want to do is make sure that when your leg is fully extended, you just have a slight bend in your knee. You don't want it to be perfectly straight. You're going to cause a lot of knee damage that way. You also don't want it to be like this when it's fully extended. A lot of knee damage. Protect your knees. You want to have a slight bend, and you want to make sure that you're sitting where you're going to be sitting. Get your foot where you normally, if you ride with your heel or your ball of your foot or whatever, get it situated, and you just want to have a slight bend in your knee. And you also want to make sure that you're able to put both feet down and you're not like tippy-toeing, and you could safely stop. So if you come to a stop at a red light and the road's uneven, you're easily able to hit on either side. That's what you want to make sure for safety. Next, you want to make sure that your head tube and your fork is tight. So what you want to do is while you're on your bike, hit your front brake really, really hard and try to rock back and forth. If you hear, or more importantly, feel this thing wonking, like going ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, that's not good. That means this is loose. So you just need to tighten up your stem. And what you would do with that is you would just loosen these two bolts right here, tighten down your bolt right here, and then slowly back it off until it moves freely again, and then that's where you want to stop it, and make sure your handlebars are straight as you're tightening this thing down. These two bolts just lock it in place. Okay, you want to be inspecting all your cables, all your bike cables, your shift cables. Do you see where are your cables going? Do they look all gross? I would throw some lube on it. Throw some Tri-Flow on there. Any part where the cables, you could see the cables, throw some lube on it, and then work it through. Hit your shift and your downshift. Run that cable through. It helps if you pedal this, and I'm just going from hard to low gear while I'm pedaling this. That's making this cable go back and forth. And then you just want to keep doing that a little bit. Right where it's going into the housing, you want to hit it with a little bit of lube so that lube hopefully is going to be getting in there. And it will work itself through that housing. And I would also be looking at your barrel adjusters on here. Ideally, you want these all to be in, so tightened in all the way. But take a look at my other video for how to adjust your shifting. I'd say start every season off with good shifting. Okay, now onto the e-bike side of maintenance. There's not a whole lot to do, but generally it's mainly for precautionary stuff. So you want to be looking at all the wiring connections, making sure that the actual connections are tight. A lot of times they could come unplugged. You want to make sure that none of the power cables or any of the communication cables are getting pinched anywhere. Now may be a good time to take some spiral wrap up your cabling and all that stuff. And I would also take off your battery. Take a look at your battery terminals. How are they looking? Are they a little corroded? Do they look good? Same thing on your battery. Find the corresponding terminals on your battery. How are they looking? Then I would also come over here to the back of your bike, take a look at your speed sensor magnet. Is it still lined up? Is it clean? And just make adjustments as needed. Brake cutoffs, that they're still communicating with your display as well. Most displays, if you squeeze the brakes, it'll tell you your brakes are activated. So now is just a good time to make sure that the communication is working between all the systems. A lot of people ask me about motor maintenance. If you have a mid-drive, what kind of motor maintenance is it? I would say treat it like an oil change on your car. Every 3,000 miles, you could open these up, take the grease out of the planetary gears and try to scrape it out, and then put in new, Mobil 1 synthetic grease, some gear lube. But besides replacing the grease, there isn't a whole lot to do with the motor besides just like a visual inspection. Hey, is there a bunch of dirt and grime inside the chain ring? And just try to clean it off. Let's keep it looking clean. Then now may also be a good time to be making some controller adjustments. There's a few motor systems that allow you to make controller settings from your phone via Bluetooth. Otherwise, if you have a Bafang BBS HD or O2 and you don't have an egg rider display, you may want to get a program cable and really dial in those settings so that for the riding season, you have that bike exactly performing how you want it to. You have the power levels exactly how you want it. If you have an aftermarket motor kit like this, you can absolutely change how the controller performs and performance. Definitely take advantage of that huge feature. And if it's something that you're not comfortable doing, making controller settings like that, or you're not sure what to do, you can reach out to us. We can help you. We can either help you do it remotely via consultation, or if you're local to the Vancouver, Washington area, bring your bike in. We can make those changes to your motor, dial it in so that you're happy as a camper. Also, is a good time to be checking on your battery health. We have battery testing units here. They're capacity testers. It's the best indication for your battery health, you know, and it may also be a good time to find out if that 52 volt 20 amp hour battery you bought on Amazon actually is a 20 amp hour, or if they sold you a 10 amp hour battery pack. Okay, now may be the time to start focusing on things that you want to upgrade just for comfort reasons. For example, my wife had a couple things that were bugging her during last season that we were riding. Her display was starting to fog up a little bit in certain conditions. She wanted a little bit more functionality out of that. So we're going to upgrade her display, a better lighting kit, brighter lights. You may want to add a suspension seat post. Check your toolkit. Make sure that you got a good, solid toolkit on your bike. You got everything you need to make any repairs on the side of the road. Now is the time to do that so that you're not getting used to it, adjusting it, and having problems with those equipment in peak riding season. Do it now before you're out there every day on it. And again, check out johnnynerdout.com, links below. And then again, guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us at the shop. Go to johnnynerdout.com, contact us there, contact us at email. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. That's not good.